Welcome, my friends. It's really good to see so many of you here. That's great. I love it. I have been working so hard. I have spent the last 2 days just sitting in this chair, um, trying to edit and upload the videos of this discussion, and I got them all done. I can't believe it. I did lose a couple in there somewhere. I know they're there. I just can't find them. So I've got to spend a little bit of time figuring that out, but they're all there somewhere. So they're in a funky order. And if anybody knows how to manipulate YouTube channels, please contact me and let me know, because I'd love to figure out a way to put them all in order. But anyway, they're there. So the recordings of all of our wonderful conversations are now available for us to go back and look at, or invite a friend to come and see what it's like when we get together and have these conversations. So I feel so good about that, and so relieved to have that done. So anyway, so they're there for any of you who want to see them. Again, I will invite all of you to turn on your cameras when you can. It's so good to see each other's faces. So I know you know that that's the preferred state, but you also know that I understand there are times when that just doesn't work out. So anyway, so I'd love to find out what's on your heart. What are you thinking about? What would you like to share or discuss today? You know, we're always open to whatever you have to share first, and anywhere in between. I feel like that's more important than anything that I or we could come prepared with. Just the things that are on our hearts.
Hey, I actually have something.
Great.
A miracle, because it's been crazy. But I've been kind of struggling. We moved at the beginning of the year, and I was like 20-something weeks pregnant, and moved by myself because my husband works on a trail for half the month. So it was just like super hectic and super crazy. And then I've been trying to like get everything ready for the baby. And after my second, I dealt with some like postpartum anxiety that and I've had some other health issues that they kind of contribute to mom rage a lot. And so I found myself really struggling to connect to my kids, and I'm kind of impatient. I had a lot of moments where I was like, okay, I just have to go in my room. You kids are just gonna have to like be by yourselves, and I'm just gonna go in my room and like be by myself. And that was happening a lot. And I was reading this book, which I really love. And if any of you are like pregnant or thinking about having another kid, I highly recommend this book. It's called The Gift of Giving Life. It's just a fantastic book. But I was reading in it, and it's like a compilation of like essays on like childbirth, and then also a collection of like birth stories. And it has birth stories like all across, I mean, every kind of birth you could possibly imagine, from C-section to anything. Anyway, one of them was talking about her fear of not being able to bond with her child, because she is a motherless mother, as they call them, and or as she called herself. And she was talking about how she was really praying about how to bond with her newborn. And one of the impressions that she got was leading a lifestyle of love, and finding like moments throughout the day to bond with her older children. This was her fourth baby. And, to increase oxytocin throughout her days leading up to birth by bonding with her children, hugs and snuggles and reading books together and things like that. Because that helps increase the love hormone afterward. And the next section was on meditation. And so I really took those to heart, those suggestions. And I went, you know what, I can do that. I can find small moments throughout the day to just like slow down, be more present with my kids, read some books, do some snuggles. My oldest really loves to, cuddle and like just be with me. And so I've kind of been focusing on that. And as I started doing that, I actually wanted to find some poetry on motherhood. So I opened up the book of virtues, which I don't know if you guys have, but it's fantastic. And I was meditating on compassion because I really wanted to foster some more compassion and just like love for my kids, which sounds awful, but I was struggling with it. So I found this poem and I'm just going to share it. It's called The Sin of Omission by Margaret E. Sangster. It says, "It isn't the thing you do, dear. It's the thing you leave undone that gives you a bit of heartache at setting of the sun. The tender word forgotten, the letter you did not write, the flowers you did not send, dear, are the haunting ghosts at night. The stone you might have lifted out of a brother's way, the bit of heartsome counsel you were hurried too much to say, the loving touch of the hand, dear, the gentle winning tone, which you had no time or thought for with troubles enough of your own. Those little acts of kindness so easily out of mind, those chances to be angels which we poor mortals find, they come in night and silence, each sad, reproachful wraith, when hope is faint and flagging and a chill has fallen on faith. For life is all too short, dear, and sorrow is all too great to suffer our slow compassion that tarries until too late. And it isn't the thing you do, dear, it's the thing you leave undone, which gives you a bit of heartache at the setting of the sun." And I read that and I went, oh my goodness, like my oldest is 5 and he's going to be going to kindergarten this coming year. And almost every day he asks me to do something. And almost always I say, we'll do that another day, or we'll do that later, or something like that. So I started writing down a list of the things that he asks me to do. And I went, you know what, we can do one of them every day. So like he's been begging me to get out his art supplies, which is always just like, that's so much energy for me to like watch him do art, and it stresses me out. And so yesterday I was like, you know what, I'll roll out some paper and you guys can do some watercolors because I don't have to supervise watercolors as much during that. And he's been asking to do that. And then he's been begging to make M&M cookies. And I went, you know what? It probably doesn't take all that long to make M&M cookies. So we made M&M cookies yesterday, just making out a list of the small little things that he wants to do that I just, when put all together, I feel like they're going to take way too much energy. But when taken one at a time, they're actually not that big a deal. And anyway, that I just wanted to share that those small moments throughout the day make a huge difference.
They certainly do, Mary, and I'm glad you shared that. I love that. Okay, Lindsay Watkins.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, so that means you
Okay.
get to talk.
I wasn't sure. I'm driving, so I don't usually do this one while I'm driving. Yesterday, my oldest, who's 11, she loves to cuddle. And I was working on some stuff on my computer. And she said, I just need to cuddle. And I said, just give me a minute. I just need to stop for 1 second. And all she said was, you can pause your busyness. And that really struck me. I was like, you're right. I can totally pause my busyness. And so that has just stuck with me. So Mary, your poem and everything like that, and all that you've said just really was along that same line of what's been on my heart. So thank you for sharing that.
I really love that, out of the mouths of babes, right? You can pause your busyness. And that phrase has come up multiple times for me in the last few days. So that's really interesting. Sarah, it's so good to see you. Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So something to share along those same lines. This one started this week. So if she's playing and I'm doing something on my phone, she comes up to me and takes the phone away and says, Mommy, put your phone down so you can see me better. And the first time it happened, I was like, kind of shocked, like, oh yeah, I should be paying attention to you. And over the course of the week, yeah, I can hold the warm baby. Over the course of the week, it started to like become a little bit more normal, and I've gotten used to putting my phone down a little bit more, and it's been so fun to just play. And so yeah, benefits.
Yeah, and I love that you women are willing to share these things, and be open about these things. Because sometimes we want to hide the things that we feel like are, like, oh, I should have done that better or something. But here we talk about those things. We share what we're learning and the sweetness that comes from receiving those messages that come often from our children's mouths. So I love that. That's really sweet. Any other comments, moms? I was talking to a Marco Polo group this week about an old talk that referenced the badge of busyness. Are you wearing the badge of busyness with pride? Kind of an idea, or would you maybe want to just take that off? I removed mine a while ago, and it has made my life so much better. So much better. But it's easy to get sucked into that. You feel like you got to have something to say, some great, amazing thing that was just keeping you so busy you had no time for anything else. Not that our days aren't busy enough on their own, but sometimes we add to that. Yeah, Melissa.
Um, this week I took a day. I especially in the winter, I fall into the trap of like, let's just get our stuff done and then we can play.
Mm.
And it's been kind of drudgery. And so this week I took a day, I think it was Tuesday, and I woke up and I ignored my kids. That was my goal, like to ignore my kids, not like in a mean way, but just I was like, I don't care what they do today. I'm ignoring them. And I got up and I played my piano, and I don't actually play the piano. I can like plunk out a little bit on the right hand. I got out and played my piano and I sang, and my kids were like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm doing music. You guys haven't done what you're supposed to, so I'm gonna have fun. And played music and sang, and then I got my journal out and I was coloring in my journal the quote that I wanted to put in there, and my kids got their journals out and started coloring with me, and then they got their piano books out and they started practicing piano, and then I started doing dishes and they started cleaning the house, and it was really funny because I ignored my kids for at least half the day, but they got more work done with me ignoring them instead of telling them what to do and me just doing what I wanted than normally. So I still have to work on that, but it was a great reminder for me of how to do that.
I love that. Just if you let go of that control that either your personality dictates, right? Or you feel like you should have, being responsible and having all the routines and everything in place. But if you can let go of that, you'll see the magic that happens. I love that. And the same thing happens with you, mom. If you'll let go and just use the time to learn yourself and warm your own heart, it makes such a huge difference. That keeps coming up too. I've had several books recommended just this morning I was listening to some of the things in the Mothers University rotation for this month. And I'm listening to a podcast that I just hadn't noticed was there. And some women are talking about books that they're reading right now. And one of them talked about Jane of Lantern Hill. Have any of you read that? It's an L.M. Montgomery book. Jane of Lantern Hill. And she said it's so wonderful. And she compared it to Understood Betsy, because it has a girl as the main character who's from a wealthy home, has never had to do anything, wasn't allowed to do any of the work or anything, and would have thought it was fun, as a little girl, but she didn't do any of that. And for some, I don't know the circumstances, she ended up being with her father in her father's home and running the home. And here she's 10 or 11 years old, and she's running the home and doing all of the things, including keeping a garden. And she's in her own little heaven as she's learning to do all these things. But it also said that she's having these wonderful relationships with the people that are around her. And the author tells us that it's not because she's around different, kinder, warmer people. It's that she has warmed her heart. And that has made all the difference in how she sees the people around her. So I loved that. That's a lot of what we're talking about. And then, yeah, I see the note over here, Emily, to Ida. I was thinking the same thing. Ida, if you're around, if you're close to your phone, or when you are, we'd love to have you address the idea of doing art with your children and the contrast that you experienced in your life in the kind of before Well-Educated Heart and after. So, and we'll, if somebody can type that request to Ida in the comments too, so when she has a chance, that would be great. Hold on, there she is.
I'm here. Oh, yeah. Um, so for me, like art has always been, sorry, I'm trying to get myself situated. Art has always been something that I really love to do. And it was really like therapy for me, kind of. And would help me like sort out my thoughts. Okay. So I would do art or I would clean. Anyways, when I started having kids, and I started homeschooling my kids right from the beginning, but that doesn't really, I mean, that doesn't make a difference. But anyways, when I started homeschooling, I would do art with them sometimes, and it was so stressful, and like everything was a mess. And I think part of it was that I spent a lot more time cleaning for my therapy and a lot less time doing art. And I sort of kept doing that. And then when I heard about, then I stopped doing art. Like I hadn't done really anything with art myself or my kids for really several years, anything really significant anyways. My friends would come over and do art with my kids sometimes, and I was always like, ah! But then Well-Educated Heart, I was listening to the ladies here, Lori and some of the other ladies, and they're talking about, you know, how good that was, and listening to the introductory course, the stuff that Marlene talks about the importance of that. And anyways, and so I decided to go and get all these good paints, these nice quality paints and paintbrushes and supplies for art. And it cost a little bit of money, so I was really nervous about that. But then I started getting out art stuff with my kids. And the first time I just got out my books and I started painting, and my kids were like really interested in it. So they wanted to. First I was like, no. But then I'm like, it's gonna be fine. And so the next day I decided I'm just gonna get out stuff and let them paint. And it was so cool. Like, I don't know why exactly. I really don't know. Maybe it was just my perspective changed, but I felt a lot less stressed. And maybe part of that is like, I think the other gal that was talking earlier, she's saying something about making cookies or something and doing art, or I don't know if she said that, but in my head that's what I heard. So trying to do too many things at once is really not helpful, especially when you're trying to do heartwarming things, because you need your heart there and you can't when you're doing 10 things at once. And so sitting down with my kids and doing art, and it was so nice and calming, and for me and for the kids. And I don't think it's like that. Like there's, I think, key things that help that, you know, like you have to be in the right place, you have to be focused on what you're doing. And I've noticed too, like when we go, we have like little watercolor books and we take them on a hike or something, or we go outside with them and we paint outside, and that helps me not feel so stressed, because I don't know, and the kids love it. So I see how much it's benefiting me and my kids, and it's worth it to take the time to do it and to try to be in a place where, like, emotionally, like I can be calm and just be like, okay, we're going to do art, and we don't have to do 20 other things. We're just focusing on art. And if we make a mess, it's okay. We can clean it up. These are watercolor paints. No harm, no foul. And my kids have started to really love art, and they're constantly wanting to paint and draw and express themselves through art, and it's warming their hearts. I can tell it's helping them be more observant, and it's helping me. And I still have to work through some of the stress of that sometimes when I'm having a hard day or I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I feel like it's making a huge difference. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that's been my experience with it. So yeah.
That's great. And I love it. I love hearing your experiences with that. And so, and obviously Emily did too. And so referenced you in talking about this. So I think it's good, so good for us to see through each other's lives how these principles can work. And not that they're perfect, not that we're perfect at doing them, but that it makes a difference and that it's changing our hearts and it's making a positive difference for others around us. So that's a good thing. But it's interesting that you talked about, your heart. It helps when your heart is right, that it makes it a positive experience, and that it's good when you're focused on just what you're doing right there. I think too many times I think that multitasking is overrated. I don't think it's such a great thing. I used to talk about how I was so good at multitasking, and I've decided I don't celebrate that anymore. I'd rather be good at being present, in the moment. So I'm kind of working on that.
Lori, I was just thinking too, like, I loved what somebody else said about she was just doing it herself.
Melissa.
Yeah. Melissa said that. She was talking about she just started doing stuff on her own. And sometimes that's what we need to do. Like when we're not feeling like we're there, we just focus on warming our hearts. And I think that's such an important principle. And, I constantly have to remind myself, I'm not feeling that great today. I need to focus on what I can do to warm my heart and get my heart right. And if that means I go and paint, and I don't like, another thing is sometimes we focus, oh, we need to do art. So we're going to teach our kids about this artist and about this technique, and we want them to do it right and like have them understand it and be a real meaningful and like just dissect this whole thing. And that ruins it, because we're supposed to be warming our hearts in this process. And that comes later, and if you're focused on all of that, then it stresses you out. But if you're just like, you know what, we're going to watercolor, you guys want to paint a bird or a flower or something simple, and then let them do whatever they want and you do whatever you want. And that is so helpful for you to just to warm your heart, to get yourself in a place where you feel peace and calm, and then you have an opportunity to teach them and share lessons that are more valuable than just the name of the artist and the technique and whatever else.
Right. Because those other lessons that you share, the ones by actually doing and experiencing a thing, those are the lessons that get into their hearts. Those are the things they remember. Any of the stories we read that talk about what children say was their favorite thing to do with their families or their greatest memories, all of that. They always seem to be the small and simple things. They're not those grand lessons that we slaved over and planned and prepared. They're the times that we just went out and went for a walk with them and stopped and looked at the butterflies or something. It's those connections that are made. They matter with everybody in our lives. It's the connections. And I loved what Linnell said at the end of last week's meeting when she was talking about how well-educated heart, nurturing my heart, nurturing your heart, spending the time doing that changes, and we have different eyes to see things in our lives differently. And it really works that way. I've seen it in you women. As we are growing and warming and nurturing our hearts, we see the difference. And then what seems to come up in these conversations is if we weren't having as good a day, or something wasn't turning out as well, or we were having a rough time, we each kind of realize, oh, I've stopped doing something. I've stopped spending the time feeding my own heart. And shouldn't that teach us a lesson? Sometimes those lessons need to be learned over and over, or experienced over and over again before they finally settle deep into our hearts. But that's the message, is do it for you. Do it for you. Well-educated heart is for you. So I love seeing the fruits of that. I love that you're outside, Michelle. You're just out there with all your animals and everything. That's so great. Michelle is about 40 minutes away from me up in Tehachapi and has a little farm and all kinds of stuff.
It's a little hobby farm, not a working farm, but I enjoy it.
It looks heavenly to me. I just love that. Hey,
You're on camera.
hello. And then they run. Ah.
Yep.
Michelle is newer to Well Educated Heart, so it's kind of fun to be part of her adventure and see that. I love it. Okay, moms, where are we going next? Or do we continue on this subject?
I like how you brought up that badge or the busyness, how we really, I think these days we really use that as a badge of honor. That, oh, well, I'm too busy to do that. Meaning, so what you're saying is you're too important to give up, you know, a few things in your life to maybe help somebody or sacrifice your time. I don't know. I think I'd like to talk more about that.
Okay, I love that topic. I have lots of experience with both sides of that. So anybody want to talk about that? Do you remember that talk or having discussions about that? What thoughts do you have about this idea of having busyness be like a badge of honor that you're wearing? Oh, I you know, oh gosh, I barely got this many hours of sleep because of all the things I was doing yesterday or something. And then, oh, I'm going to one up you and I'm going to share what I did yesterday. And it was even more than that, you know. And then if we're saying, oh, well, I sat and read this beautiful book and, or I just went outside in my backyard and watched the eagles, you know, as they were flying, and, or the elk, you know, across the way, like Emily. I love that in our Marco Polo groups, you women have stopped to take some video of something that's going on, or to share a poem that you've read, or a book that you just finished and loved, or something, whatever it is. I love that you stop and take the time to share those things. That's a thing that you might not have done before, Well Educated Heart. I wonder about that. Do you notice the difference? Everybody's thinking. Oh, Cassie, a quote I've held on to remind me of my priorities, is if Satan can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. I've heard that too, Cassie. That's a powerful thing to think about. If Satan can't make you bad, if that's, you're just not going to fall for that, he'll make you busy. And Ida says it's almost worse than a badge. People look at you like you are lazy or neglectful when you aren't insanely busy all the time. It's true. It's true. Have you been able to kind of slow down a little, Emily?
I'm just going to say, when you speak to someone and they talk about how busy they are, in a way, I feel like they're blocking themselves off from something. So it's a way of kind of holding things at arm's length instead of embracing something and taking it in. You can just say, oh, I'm just so busy. I'm so busy. I'm doing all these things. And then there is like this culture of that there's great value in that busyness. And sometimes I feel like we can be busy, but it's the way we talk about it that closes us off or allows us to be open to opportunities or to change that would be better for us. And so I try to be careful how I talk about my schedule, because I am in a busy season of motherhood. My children are not at home keeping me busy, but they are out of the home keeping me busy. And we're doing a lot of chasing for their activities. So I have to be careful how I speak about it, and so that I can keep myself open to other things.
You know, I love that you say that, because there are times that are busy. Yes, we are busy. Our lives, our schedules are full of things, but the way that we see it and say it changes the way that we feel it. Oh, look, I'm doing Brooks. No, I didn't even mean to do that, but it's true. The way we see a thing and then the way we talk about it changes the way that it makes us feel too, right? Lindsay Watkins.
Whenever I think about multitasking or busyness. It reminds me of that saying, jack of all trades, but master of none. And I think that that's true, because if you're constantly just dabbling in everything, you're not really sitting down and taking it in and becoming a master of that one thing.
Yeah, I like that thought. That's great. And I saw some nodding heads out there too, which I love. I'm going to read what Melanie shared over here. The funny thing is that our culture prizes the ability to stop and relax, vacationing in beautiful spots and enjoying a sunset. For example, Instagram illusions of a perfect life, but we don't actually want to give ourselves permission to enjoy it ourselves because we feel we have to stay busy. And Ida said, yes, and no depth. That's interesting. I think all this is really interesting.
I have a quick comment.
Yeah, Mary.
So when I first got married, it was crazy. And I was super busy for the first couple of years of our marriage with taking care of various people in our family who were sick and working and all of the craziness that comes in life. And I was super, super busy. And it wasn't until my oldest was several years old, and actually until really the pandemic hit. I was pregnant with my second. He was born right before the pandemic hit, but I was diagnosed with a thyroid disorder partway through my pregnancy with him. And part of that was like, one of the causes of it is chronic stress. And so one of the remedies for it is figuring out ways to de-stress. And it was during that time that I realized I had been so busy for so many years. And not only was I busy, but I felt busy. I felt that constant need to go all the time. Somebody was saying earlier, it honestly, the way we think about it and the way we feel about, oh yeah, did that get stuck? There you go. That really makes the difference. And it was, sorry, I have a car stuck in a blind. It wasn't until I actually was, talked to my husband and let him know that I felt like I was failing, because even though I was so busy, I couldn't get things done. No, Gideon, we're not going to drive them on the blinds. No. That he suggested that I just take a couple of nights a week and just to myself and go and, discover some hobbies. And I did that. I took 2 nights a week and I went over to my parents' house. And I learned how to crochet, and I worked on some calligraphy that I had been wanting to learn since I was in high school. And just taking those couple of hours a week to just go and be still and discover who I was again. It has made all the difference in my motherhood and in feeling in the feeling of business. My to-do list has not really gone down. If anything, since then I've become a single parent for half the month because of my husband's job. And so, it's gotten, if anything, more crazy, but because of those couple of months where I just was able to take a little break, I learned how to slow down in the small moments as necessary. And obviously I have to remind myself of that. My story earlier proves that. But it is so worth it. And taking those times as people have said, to feed your own heart and to find moments of stillness and of quiet. It makes a huge difference, even if the rest of your day is crazy busy.
Right. It does. And the way you perceive it, if you are thinking, oh, I've got to go in the kitchen, I've got to cut all these things up and do all these things and make dinner. And if that's what's running through your head, you're going to feel frantic and busy and overworked and overwhelmed. But if you're thinking, I'm going to take these few minutes to go in and cut up all these vegetables and start preparing dinner for my family that I love. I'm so grateful I have the time to be able to do this for my family. totally, completely changes the experience. I mean, that's just a little one tiny little example, but gosh, doesn't it make a difference? I'm going to read what Cassie says here. And then I think, Sarah, you had your hand up earlier. Cassie says, in my emotional resilience class, so good, just yesterday, someone said, if you want to know who you are, look at your calendar. It really made me think about what I dedicate my time to. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. Sarah, did you still want to share, sweetie?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I think one of the falsehoods about busyness that comes up in my head the most is that busyness is some sort of a reflection of my intelligence. That somehow intelligent people are busy and productive, and that's the sign that they're intelligent. And so I've had to really work on that and help myself to understand that it's not, and there is value and there is intelligence even in like when you slow down and notice details, and when you slow down and really enjoy things. It doesn't make you less intelligent to be mindful and present, and that's just a lesson that I've really had to learn the past couple of years, just teaching myself that it doesn't make me more intelligent if I'm busy, and it doesn't make me any smarter than anyone else if I'm more productive, if I put more meal plans together or fancy documents for reference or anything like that. Like that's not what it means to be intelligent and live your life well.
I think that is really great, Sarah. I'm pretty sure your face will end up on the Well Educated Heart page because Marley's going to grab that. She's going to love that quote. It's so good. That idea that the world sees busyness as a reflection of our intelligence. That's really interesting, but it's so, so true. And Melissa says over here, thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate that. It's so funny as I watch myself on the screen because I'm totally gesturing to where you guys are, you know, on the screen as if you guys know where that is. Anyway, I realized the busiest time of my life was so busy because I was avoiding some hard things going on. And that was kind of alluded to earlier. I was so socially and community involved that everyone thought I was amazing, but I wasn't. I was really just avoiding processing trauma. Then I never actually processed that trauma for years and years. I wonder if I had been in a different place, I would have taken time to feel instead of being busy. That's really profound too. I think that happens a lot. Well, I don't remember who was talking, darn it. Usually I do, but when somebody was saying, oh, Emily, when you were talking about saying that when someone is talking and sharing their busyness, talking about that you feel like they're maybe avoiding something, right? That's going on. Also, I see it now almost as like a cry for help, whether they know it or not. It feels like that to me because I think, oh, you just need a moment. You need to breathe. Here, come here. Let's just sit down for a minute. Let's just talk for a little bit. Let's go for a walk. Let's go look at some flowers. Let's, just do something to help you be able to just stop for a second and see if that feels okay to you, and see do you want to do that again? Do you want to take another breath? You might actually like it because I've been there. I've done that. And I thought it was great too. And I liked it. And I also liked that people responded to my busyness with, oh, wow, how do you get all that done? Whatever. I thought that was impressive, I guess. That's how the world saw it. And so I wanted to be part of that. And then when that talk came and that idea of this badge of busyness, I thought, oh, I wear that with a bit too much pride. I think I'd like to take that off, And then I see the pandemic as in combination with all the hard things, but I see it as such a gift that gave a lot of us the opportunity to take out a lot of those things that made us busy, and there's a difference between busyness and having a life full of responsibilities and things that you need to get done or enjoy getting done. but it's different. There's something about that busyness that keeps us, I think it keeps us from feeling the spirit sometimes. It keeps us from being present for sure. It keeps us from making real connections. I don't know. But I definitely see and feel that. Michelle, now that we've been discussing that, do you have some thoughts about that yourself?
I was just thinking that, you know, there have been times in my life where I'm trying to serve others and I'm going here and going there and doing this and doing that. And then I find myself getting angry at my family because we don't have enough time for this or that. And over the years, I've realized, you know what, that's not fair to them. I have had to learn that I need to serve them first, and then I can serve outside of my home. But if I'm so stressed out that I'm taking it out on my family, that's not productive for me or for them or for anybody else. So I've had to learn to also try to slow down, and I've had to learn to say no sometimes. You know, I think it's hard in our culture, the LDS culture sometimes, but I really have to stop and think and go, you know, I would really love to help you right now, but I just can't. But keep me in mind in the future, because maybe I will be able to do that in the future.
Yeah. Yes. And I love that. And I have learned to say no. And it is kind of, it's like this, wait, that's not a word. We don't use that word. You're not supposed to say that. You can't say no. You have to say yes. Well, no, I've learned, because at one point my husband said, now I'm fine. I support you in all the service that you do. That's great. But can you just check and make sure first that that's what the Spirit is telling you to do? And I kind of went, oh, I just kind of assumed, you know, if an opportunity came up, that meant it was for me. And that counsel made me step back and think, okay, wait a second. It came from, you know, I love too that when our husbands give us counsel like that, or a priesthood leader, or, you know, if you're not a member of my church, you know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, your spouse, your partner, your religious leader, whatever, your answers from heaven. If you get that direction, it's wise to take a moment and sit with it and really think about how it applies to you, because it came to you for a reason. And so I thought about it. And I realized that so much of what I was doing, I was just doing because it came to me, not because I was the one that was supposed to do it. And so then when I started being more prayerful and more aware of that, and not responding in the moment, but just saying, can I get back to you on that? You know, and then I would very often, it surprised me how often my answer was, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to do that. Or I also learned from a friend of mine who will go and give 2 hours. And she'll cheerfully and lovingly and warmly give those 2 hours. And then she goes because she has her family at home and all the things to attend to. And that's even now that her kids are grown and out of the house. She still does that. You've got to find that balance. And I'm just so surprised that often the answer was no, because I needed to be home first and make sure those things were done. And I think I also will share this real quickly, but I believe that for a time in my life, my experiences, Heavenly Father said, oh, okay, so you're not going to take advantage of what I've given you, this time to be home with your family and serve your family. So I'll just let you have all these opportunities to be busy outside of your family, so that then it'll change your perspective and you'll wish you had more time at home, which is what happened. And I kind of had that realization, and I turned things around, and I spent most of my time at home. And then when I could, I would spend that other time. I'm not saying that service is bad. I am all about service and doing things for other people, but in balance and with the guidance of heaven. So just wanted to share that because that was really important for me to learn that. Okay, so Emily says, I have to schedule time for slowness, for hobby, for quiet. Sounds a bit crazy, but if there is something on my calendar, I can more easily say I'm not available at that time. That's very wise, Emily. It really is, that you schedule in that time, because our families need us to be at our best, and our best requires us to have that time to fill our cups. So that needs to be time that's scheduled in. That is, it's time that is respected just as much as any other appointment would be on your calendar, as that time for you and nurturing your heart, so that you are all that you need to be, and then Heavenly Father will make up the rest, and we'll be able to do what we need to do and serve in the ways that He really wants us to. Other thoughts? And Jen, it's good to see you here. I've read your last updates and that all sounds promising, so that's good. We've all been praying for you, so, and your family. And that's so great, having a circle of people to be doing that, for each other when we're having different stuff going on. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Definitely still needed.
Yeah, we'll definitely won't forget. But what do you think about these things? You've been quiet, but I know you're very present in this discussion.
Just listening today. I don't know. My mind is kind of blank today. Just trying to, I think I need to be just nourished and not have anything to say, but
No, and that's fine. That's fine. But I love that you said that, because that is part of the experience here, isn't it? Is coming here when we're in more of I love the phrase. I mean, it's a very common thing that happens with us. We go up and down, and there are times when we're kind of depleted and we need something that helps fill that back up so that we can go and do what we need to do. And so there are times when we are more empty. There's just not a lot there to share, but we can come here and we can take advantage of the conversations and the feeling and the connection, and that can be helpful. So I appreciate that, Jen. Linnell.
I think it's ironic and kind of funny that you're talking about multitasking. I'm over here running all over my kitchen, doing all sorts of things and doing like 10 things at once. And so this is good for me to think about and consider, like, how many things do I try to do in a day all at once? And do I have to? Is that the best approach? So those are just some thoughts that have been going through my mind as I've been listening. But I had a few experiences that I wanted to share, going back to Mary's comment at the very beginning about art and feeling, I think she said mom rage. Is that what she said, the term she used?
I think so.
And I can definitely relate to those feelings of having so much coming at you at once and not really knowing what fire to put out first. And earlier this week, I was kind of feeling that. And so, similar to what I think Ida was sharing, or maybe it was someone else, I'm not sure, but I decided I just needed to do some art myself. I often think about what I've learned from Well-Educated Heart and the tools I've picked up. And one of the things is, if I'm feeling overstimulated, I should probably slow down and do some art or read a story or fill my cup somehow. So I decided to draw some tulips. I followed an Art for Kids Hub tutorial and I drew the tulips, and then all 4 of my kids came around me and they wanted to take over my project. So I drew them, like the outlines, and then my son helped me color them in. And before I would have said, no, this is my project. I want to do it. I want to make it perfect. I want to color it the way I want to. And I'm slowly realizing the importance of, like, that's the whole point of this, right? I need to realize that I'm an example to help him fill his heart. So if he sees me doing art and he wants to come, sure, of course. And I'm learning to let go of that control, that it doesn't have to be fully my project. And I don't have to have this pristine finished product. And I'm focusing more on the experience. So I had all 4 children around me and we did art together for over an hour, I think. And it was peaceful. They weren't climbing all over the place and jumping off the walls. And another thing that I read recently in a book is that the best boss is the one who bosses the least. And that's really stuck with me a lot. Because as a mom, I boss my kids around a lot. I tell them what to do. And I'm constantly giving them instructions. And this thought made me step back and think about how often I am trying to mandate what my children do every minute of the day. And recently, Lori invited us to re-listen to a podcast about 5 things that Marlene recommends us to do. And one of them is to give our children freedom to learn. So tying all of those things together, I'm trying to not boss my children so much and tell them what to do. But as I do the things myself, they see me and want to come do them with me. And when I give them the freedom to explore and learn whatever they want to, they're happier and they're more willing, and our home environment is a lot more peaceful. And so these lessons, although I've already learned them before, they come back in cycles. Like for some reason I forget them, or I don't practice them, or I don't know, I just keep needing to relearn them. And sometimes I think, well, when will I finally get it? When will I just master these principles and not have to relearn them? I don't know if I ever will, but again and again and again, I keep learning the same principles over and over.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. It's like, could I ever actually learn a thing? Or is it just going to be that? But I guess that's okay. And I was thinking while you were talking, this same principle applies to every person around us. We don't have to be like, if I had a nature journal and I was outside drawing, I would be a little intimidated if one of you walked up, initially. That would be my initial reaction, would kind of be like, because my drawings aren't going to be very good. I'm not good at that yet because I haven't put in the time to be good at that. But if I'm out there and I'm enjoying that and that it's helping me to experience nature more, isn't the important part that you get to see me doing that, and it might motivate you to do it too, right? It's not that I'm doing it so great. In fact, if I was so super great at it, I might actually intimidate you rather than that be a really warm welcome or invitation to come and do it with me, right? I think sometimes we wait to have conversations with people about Well-Educated Heart or about the things that we're doing. We don't have to call it anything, but sometimes we wait to have a discussion with somebody because we think, well, I don't know enough about that. I mean, I saw this painting and I loved it, but I don't know when it was painted. I don't know what medium was used. I don't know what style of art, of painting it is. So I don't know what it means. I just know that I love it. So what could I say about it? Well, you could say that you loved it. You could show it and say, I don't know what it is about this, but I just love this painting. What do you think? Right? Couldn't we? I think we need to not be so worried about perfection and just invite others to experience what we're experiencing, what we're trying over and over again, and help them to start feeling that, the little bits of warmth that we are feeling in our own hearts. It's starting to affect our reception of things around us and our experience with the world. I don't know. Just something I've been thinking of. Yeah, Emily, there is a time in making a soup when it has to simmer. The cook is not adding things, taking things out to serve, but letting the flavors come together. Sometimes the quiet times when we don't add are needed so that we can serve out from what we have collected and gathered. That's really beautiful. That's really good, Emily. I understand that. I love making soup is my favorite thing. I am good at that. You guys ever want to come over? I'll make you soup. It is my thing. But that is so true. And it's so much better when it has time to simmer. So we need to allow ourselves that time. And if you have children at home, that simmering time could be you sitting down. You can sit down, sitting down and gathering your children around, or not, just sitting down and starting to read a book, and that magic happens. You start reading a book and they start coming around. I was reading a book the other day. I just got this book. The Mothers of Influence shared it with me. A Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe. And it's so good. And we had a fire in the fireplace, and I sat in the comfy chair and I just started reading out loud, because I've learned recently, that that's better for our own understanding of the thing to read it out loud. So I was reading out loud. And after a little while, my daughter and my husband are sitting in there with me, just sitting in front of the fire, listening to me read about math, the mathematical archetypes of nature, art, and science. Who would have thought? That's not the book that we would have picked off the shelf necessarily, like to read together. And if I'd invited them, to come in and read with me, I don't know. But anyway, just shows you how lovely that is. I just dropped my glasses, sorry. Anyway, it's just interesting. Extend a little invitation and see what happens. And I love that. Okay, my friends, there's a lot of beauty and goodness comes in tiny, small things. When I talk about these things to you, I think sometimes you think that it means something really big, but it really means a small moment here and there. That scripture is so true. By small and simple means are great things brought to pass. It's not just by small and simple means are some things, have brought to pass. No, great things are brought to pass. That's significant. The words in that are significant. Small, simple, and through those small and simple things, great things are brought to pass. So don't overwhelm yourself. That's, there's so many voices that will come and tell you, no. Try to reframe what you hear. Don't let that happen. You hear the purity of the message and receive that in your heart, and do that, and you will receive the blessings, and they'll be much more than you imagine. Anyway, Linnell, are you ready to take us home, as it were?
Speaking of the soup and the cooking, reminded me of a joke my brother told me yesterday. He said, "What's the one herb that is the cure-all?" Can you think of one herb that can be a cure-all? What do you think? You can say it or chat it.
I want to let others pipe in, but I have mine. Anybody else?
Is it time?
That's it. It's time. And so often we just need a little bit of time, just like Emily was saying. Time to simmer, and time to relax, and time to recuperate, time to fill up our cup, and time to feed our hearts. I had an experience this past week where I had 5 minutes to a phone call for a book club. And 5 minutes before the phone call, I got a text, and it was my auntie, and she said, "Do you have time to chat?" And I had 30 seconds to decide, what am I going to tell her? Am I going to say, "Sure, no problem"? Or am I going to say, "Sorry, I've got an appointment to keep"? And I tend to be really I tend to be a stickler for keeping commitments. I really like to be reliable, and I like to say yes and be there and hold to my word. And so it was hard to say, "Yes, you can call me," but I did. And I had a chat with her, and I let my book club appointment know, "Sorry, I won't be able to make it." We ended up chatting for about half an hour, and so I completely missed the book club. But after the phone call with her, my book club friends told me, "I'm so glad that you made time to talk to her." And ironically, this book that we're reading is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so we're studying and learning about how to prioritize people. And if I had chosen to study the book over talking to a person who wanted to talk, I would have completely missed the point. And so I had an opportunity to practice this without even realizing it. So often we'll be put to the test where we'll have two things that we'll have to choose between. Do I clean my house or do I make cookies with my child? Do I answer this phone call or do I cuddle with my child? Our time will always need to be split. And I don't think there's ever a wrong answer, because each of our experiences will teach us something. And so if one time you choose one thing and you didn't like how that felt, then you choose the next thing the next time. And so we can look at it as a learning process. And we don't need to beat ourselves up or get down on ourselves when the choice we made brings us an uncomfortable feeling. And I think if we approach our experiences in that way of just learning, taking it as data, I guess, and allowing yourself to feel the emotion, but then analyzing after, well, what should I do next time? I think that's one way that we can grow and become better. And I have a poem to share with you from the bird book at the end of this. This is from last month's study of birds. At the very end, there are some poems. So I read this poem this past week, and I think it goes along well with some of the things we were talking about. It's on page 353, towards the very end, second to last page of the book. It says, God made the pretty bird to fly, how sweetly has she sung. And though she flies so very high, she won't forget her young. I'll read it one more time, short and sweet. God made the pretty bird to fly, how sweetly has she sung. And though she flies so very high, she won't forget her young. I'm sure there's a lot of meaning you can take from that, and you can apply it to your situation in your life. But what I get from that is that God gave us gifts, and we are meant to share them. We're meant to serve, we're meant to help others, we're meant to spread our wings and fly. But at the end of the day, we'll never forget our young. And we always need to come back home to our family, to our loved ones, and we need to take care of them. But that's not something we'll ever forget. And I think it's a lifelong balance that we need to figure out of how can I sing and fly and serve others and help outside my home while still taking care of my young in my home in the nest. And I think we're meant to do both. And a beautiful part about Well-Educated Heart and Mothers of Influence is that it's teaching me how to have a better balance so that I can feel fulfilled as well as share my gifts with others.
Thank you so much, Linnell. And it does help us do that. It does help us find that balance. And sometimes the balance is not so much like the balance of the time and the things, it's that too, but just the balance in our own hearts to be okay with it all, to not have our emotions be so crazy, but to be able to deal with all of it. I love that. Thank you, Linnell. I'm going to share what Melissa wrote over here. I thought it was really sweet. I wasn't feeling well last night, and I asked my husband to read to me. He asked what I wanted him to read, and I said fairy tales. He laughed because we usually read more thought-provoking things, but I fell asleep to the soothing voice of my husband reading the story of the Little Mermaid. How often is that just what my kids need? So lots and lots of really good things to think about. So let's think about those things, and then we'll get together again. And I just realized that next Friday, I will be at a wedding sealing for a friend Friday morning. So what are we going to do about that, my friends? We'll talk. We'll talk about it, and then we'll have this meeting next Friday, 10 a.m. And Lindsay and Laura too, Lindsay might be able to do it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But Friday, that's the day we meet. Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, just as normal, but with a different facilitator. And I will miss you guys. I will miss you all. But I'll be in Utah all next week, and I get to meet with the grandmas. So that'll be really fun. We're going to plan some things for all the rest of us. So anyway, well, thanks for being here, all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is always such a good thing for us to be together, to connect, to share the things that we're feeling and thinking and learning about. And I just love it. It's really a unique and wonderful blessing and privilege. So thanks for being here.